Hello everybody, Corrine Smith here, avid John Denver fan since 1972. Was also a member of John's WinStar Foundation and had a chance to chat with him and shake hands with him twice and thank him for all he'd done. Posed as a fan picture with him in 1995 at the Choices Symposium in Aspen, Colorado. Great picture of John, me. What are you gonna do? It was 1995. Anyway, thank you, John, for everything. Thanks again to photographer Doug for capturing this moment. What I'd like to do in these programs is to go through John's albums in exact chronological order. Why? So we can revisit these great songs and his performances so that we can see the evolution of his style over the years. And so if you are making a complete collection, you know what to get if you are missing something. Okay, now I know that in this day of electronics, you can call up all of his songs probably anywhere you want to without even knowing or caring which albums they came from. But that can be a problem because he did them differently almost all along the way. So today is our first program of this. We're starting with 6 albums from the years 1965 to 1970. And yes, there will be additional programs that keep on going. So if you want to keep up, you know the routine, subscribe, like, ring the bell. Let's jump right in. And we have to start with the Mitchell Trio. Originally, the Chad Mitchell Trio. Chad Mitchell created this group in 1958, had a number of personnel changes throughout the years, and then in 1965 he decided to launch his own solo career. And that's when a young 21-year-old named Henry John Dutchendorf Jr. auditioned for the job and got it. And actually I just said it that way for effect. He was already using the name John Denver by this time, but you know, actually he never did legally change his name. So I was right the first time. Anyway, 1965, he joined the Mitchell Trio along with Joe Frazier and Mike Koblik. And their first album together was That's the Way It's Gonna Be. Came out in August 1965. Has 12 songs on it. The description on the back of the album starts with this note. This is the 9th album to come from the minds, voices, and consciences of the Mitchell Trio. It also serves to introduce the newest member of the threesome, a jaunty lad named John Denver. Okay, so this album has 12 songs on it. You listen to it now, it will take you back to the style of the folk music of the 60s. Today, you might think it sounds more like bluegrass or country. The Mitchell Trio was known for 2 things. First was its close 3-part harmony, and you will hear a lot of it on this album. It'll be interesting for you to try to figure out which voice is John's, although it's his younger voice, so it's kind of difficult to tell sometimes between the 3 of them. Secondly, Mitchell Trio was known for its political satire, for singing quirky songs that poked fun at current events or people or situations. And they also took on more serious issues like the anti-war movement against Vietnam and the civil rights movement. So when you listen to the Mitchell Trio at all, you have to remember the politics of the day. This is almost like a history lesson here. And these songs could even be controversial back then. For example, here we have Lucy Baines, which is about the younger daughter of Lyndon Johnson and Lady Bird Johnson. What Kind of Life Is That, which is about American actress Elizabeth Taylor. Song for Canada, which called for Canadian unity at a time when Quebec was urging for separation. I Was Not a Nazi Polka, speaks for itself. Ecumenical March, which is about the Pope absolving American Jews for the death of Jesus Christ. And that's just on the first side of this album. So yes, this music can be edgy. This is not background music that you put in one room and you go do something in another. You have to listen to these songs deliberately, I think. Now, they're not all negative. That's the Way It's Gonna Be and Phoenix Bird are both more positive songs. Never Coming Home was written by renowned singer-songwriter Eric Anderson. There are some silly songs included here, like Long Tall Texan, which John sings lead on. And there's also Three-Legged Man, which was written by Shel Silverstein. He, of course, is more known for children's poetry books like Where the Sidewalk Ends and The Giving Tree. But, fun fact, Shel Silverstein also wrote the lyrics to the song A Boy Named Sue. Two songs on here you should already know. Get Together, written by Chet Powers, mid-60s song that was covered by a lot of people, most popularly by the Youngbloods a few years after this album. But all the different versions of that song are approached and interpreted in different ways, and this version doesn't quite sound like the Youngbloods, but John does sing the lead on it. And also on here is Mr. Tambourine Man, Bob Dylan's classic, covered by a lot of people again, most notably and famously by the Byrds on their debut album, which came out just a few months before this one. John sings the lead on Mr. Tambourine Man. Interestingly enough, John Denver is not credited as a musician on this album. Pay attention also to the fact that Milt Oken produced this album. Milt would go on to produce John's albums as he launched into his solo career, and he was a good friend through much of John's life. If you read John's autobiography, Take Me Home, then you will learn that he credits the Mitchell Trio guys for helping him to become more aware of social and political issues. And so his work with them serves to foreshadow the kinds of political songs that he includes on his own early albums. And it helps to explain the kinds of causes that he took up in his own life. So that's the way it's going to be his first album, which the Mitchell Trio. Their next one came out just a few months later in December '65, and it's called Violets of Dawn. Has 12 songs on it, and the title song was written by Eric Anderson. And when I first heard it 8 or 9 years later, I fell in love with it. I think it is the most beautiful, powerful love song ever written or performed. Ever. Ever. It's full of 1960s impressionism. John sings the lead, and the close 3-part harmony that these guys have in the choruses is phenomenal. I'm including the link below to the album cut. If you do nothing else today, please stop this video, click on the link, and listen to Violets of Dawn. Yes, you can find other examples of it out there, including by Eric Anderson himself. And even though he's the singer-songwriter, he can only do the melody line. The phrasing and the harmonies here are phenomenal. I don't know why Violets of Dawn didn't get radio airplay. Not then, not today on classic hit stations. Again, if you get nothing else out of this program today, let me at least lead you to Violets of Dawn. It's the first song on this album, and quite frankly, it's one of the best ones. So, what else is on here? For humorous satire, we've got a song called Your Friendly Liberal Neighborhood Ku Klux Klan. And of course, there are civil rights and protest, anti-war protest songs on here, like The Sound of Protest Has Begun to Pay, We Didn't Know, One Time and One Time Only, Talking Football. Those last three are Tom Paxton's songs. Talking Football is actually more of a narrative than a song. Tom Paxton also wrote the text on the back of the album. Other protest songs are Business Goes On As Usual and Pete Bog Soldiers. There's a silly bluegrass song on here called Rabbit that once you hear it will probably stay in your head the rest of the day unless you've got Violets of Dawn stuck in there already. Now, here, John is listed in the credits for playing 12-string guitar. And the primary example of his contribution is his performance of Pete Seeger's Bells of Rhymney. And that one is dramatic and really good to listen to, too. The song that you will know most on here is For Bobby, which is credited as being written by H.J. Duchendorf Jr. Yes, it's the same song you know as For Baby, For Bobby. John wrote it about an old girlfriend. This version is a little faster than the one you probably remember. This one is actually the first song that he ever wrote for the Mitchell Trio and the first song of his to be recorded by anybody. Now, again, it's a little faster than the one you remember. I got out our metronome to check it, and this one clocks in at about 108 beats per minute, where if you go on to Rocky Mountain High album, that one is at about 80. So it slows down as time goes on. Phrasing is slightly different between the two versions of the songs, too. And so that is Violets of Dawn. Again, if you've never heard that title song, please go listen. I don't think you will be disappointed. Now today, in the days of CDs, you can get a combination CD that combines these two albums. And if you look on eBay for it, you'll see the cover of this album with the two covers of the CDs superimposed on the guys. And so you can get both on one CD set, all for one money, as Stephen D used to say. So that's the way it's going to be, and Violets of Dawn together. Now, Mitchell Trio did a lot of touring, especially to college campuses, and so they brought out Alive in 1967, recorded at American University in Washington, D.C., and at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. By this time, Joe Frazier had left the group, and he was replaced by David Boise. The album has 11 songs on it, so the cool thing is that you can hear the audience reaction to the songs. And another cool thing is that you can hear John's introductions to the songs. Now, he does seem to be a little nervous here. Talks a little faster than usual, with a little higher pitched voice than we're used to hearing him, but he was only 23, so, maybe he had reason to be nervous. I don't know. Anyway, the introduction to the whole program is a vignette that I can't even describe. It's a civil rights related introduction. It serves to shock. That's all I can tell you. Remember, this is 1967. So songs on here include What This Country Really Needs Is Another Movie Star, which is about Ronald Reagan and other actors and celebrities getting into the politics game. How little did they know. Then there's a song called Adam's Rib about Adam Clayton Powell, who was being investigated for misuse of funds at the time. Alabama Mother about Lurleen Wallace serving as governor of Alabama. Coal Tattoo about the realities of the coal mining industry. Tom Paxton's song called Cindy's Crying, a serious song about drug abuse and prostitution. There's a silly song on here called God is Dead, and another silly song on here called Flaming Youth, which pokes fun at college kids smoking grass and all kinds of other things on their college campuses. Remember, this is 1967. Okay, so the cover song on here that you're going to know most is She Loves You by Lennon and McCartney. But while the Beatles originally is perky and bouncy, the Mitchell Trio's version is slower and more melodic and pensive. Kind of interesting, kind of unexpected, kind of shocking even. I don't know why they did it this way. There are no yeah, yeah, yeahs. There's only ooh, ooh, oohs. Okay? So, a slower and softer version of She Loves You. John is again credited with playing the 12-string guitar, and he's also credited with writing 3 of the songs as John Denver this time. One is an audience participation song that's called He Was a Friend of Mine, that ends up just really being kind of goofy. Another one is his song called Like to Deal with the Ladies, which he describes as being about dirty old men. Okay. This version's a little faster than the one on the Beginnings tribute album, which we will cover in another program. And that song, of course, also appears much later in the 1980s on John's album Higher Ground. In addition to She Loves You, the song that you will know most on here is Leaving on a Jet Plane. It's a nice version. Keep in mind, this is 1967. Peter, Paul, and Mary's classic recording won't come out for another 2 years in 1969, and then it'll hit number 1 on the top 40 charts. Okay? By the way, when John used to talk about that song, he often emphasized the word jet, leaving on a jet plane. Not sure why. In fact, he did not come up with the title for the song. Milt Oken did. John had originally called it Oh Babe, I Hate to Go. Now, if you get a CD copy of this Alive album by the Mitchell Trio, CDs did not exist back in the 1960s. So there are extras. There are extra photos of the guys. So there they are, young guys, 1967. On the back, on the CD itself, and also hiding behind the CD. When they do newer formats, they can add more stuff. They added more text than just what's on the back of the original vinyl album. So keep this in mind. If you are changing formats, you're probably going to get extras, maybe even major changes. This is not the first time we will see differences between formats, okay? Just warning you on that point. This is not the last time you'll see that. And so this is Alive from 1967. Mike Koblick then left the group, and he was replaced by Michael Johnson, and so the group came to be known as Denver, Boise, and Johnson, but not for long. They broke up in 1969. John went out on his own. Peter, Paul, and Mary released Leaving on a Jet Plane. John's life changed overnight, and so did ours. 1969, winter of 1969, saw his first solo album with RCA Records, Rhymes and Reasons. Has 14 songs on it, and 4 of them are John's. Daydream and Circus are both catchy songs that you might remember once you hear them again. They're both easy to play on the guitar, too, if you know basic chord progressions. The songs Rhymes and Reasons and Leaving on a Jet Plane are just as you would like them to be. Great songs with great lyrics that still resonate with us today. Beatles cover on here is When I'm 64. And of course there are selections of social commentary reminiscent of what the Mitchell Trio used to do, like Tom Paxton's Ballad of Spiro Agnew and the very brief Ballad of Richard Nixon. Other songs on here are The Love of the Common People, Yellow Cat, You Done Stomped on My Heart, where John really goes country, My Old Man, I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free, and Today is the First Day of the Rest of My Life, Sugacity. Another song that should be familiar to you here is Catch Another Butterfly, written by Michael Williams. If you ever saw John in concert, you probably heard him do this. I think it remained one of his favorite songs to perform. Again, his musical evolution, he plays a little faster here than he did in later years. And that goes along with the theme of the song, right? You're older and you're looking back at your younger self and how wistful you were and how eager you were to learn about anything. There's also additional instrumentation on the song here, like flute and bass guitar and some other sounds. I think when John did it in concert, it was just him and his guitar. Anyway, first instance of Catch Another Butterfly on the 1969 Rhymes and Reasons album. March 1970 gave us Take Me to Tomorrow. This was when albums came, fast and furious. 11 songs are on here. It's interesting now, again, to hear the instrumentation on here because these albums seem to be so produced, They don't sound like the sound that John eventually landed on later. So 11 songs on here, and 6 of them were written by John. Title song, Take Me to Tomorrow, he describes as a protest song because he was tired of all the conflicts all the time, every day. He wanted to get them all resolved, all in one day, and then take me to tomorrow when things will be better and life will be easier and wonderful again. Wishful thinking, John. Thank you for that. By the way, I'm getting John's stories about his songs from this book, John Denver, The Complete Lyrics, put together by Milt Oken in 2002, and all it is all the song lyrics. It's a wonderful book, out of print now. Some used book dealers online are selling it for $100 or more. Hope you can get one if you don't already have one. And some of the songs have the lyrics, but also have a story next to them. Wonderful book. By the way, I didn't realize until I had the books together that the back cover of that one and the front cover of Take Me Home were from the same photo shoot. Kind kind of interesting. Anyway, you have this book. Don't let it out of your sight, all right? It's rare. It's rare, and it's a wonderful resource to have if you're sitting around the campfire or around the living room. There's your lyrics. Now, they don't always include all of them. If the choruses repeat at the end of the songs, they might not have all the choruses printed there. Check your favorite recordings for the way John did it so that you know how to do it yourself. Anyway, let's go back to Take Me to Tomorrow. Songs on here. Isabel. Oh, I liked that song as soon as I heard it. It's ethereal, and John describes it as he wanted it to be dreamlike, which it is. Isabel. Aspen Glow's on here, about John and Annie living in Aspen, Colorado by this time. Anthem Revelation is another pretty easy and catchy song to sing, and it is a pure celebration of life. Sticky Summer Weather. It's what it sounds like. John was thinking about July in Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in the height of summer. The song of his on here that you are going to know most is Follow Me. So this version is a little faster than the later ones were. It's got an echoey kind of chorus. Now, don't forget that John would later claim that 3 of his songs coincidentally formed a cohesive trilogy without him ever intending them to do so. Leaving on a Jet Plane was the first one. Follow Me was the second. We will get to the third in a subsequent program. Also on this album are 2 Tom Paxton songs. Forest Lawn makes fun of celebrity funerals, and you may remember it from also being on the 1975 album An Evening with John Denver, which we will not talk about yet because we're not up to 1975. Other songs on here, Jimmy Newman is a passionate anti-war song. 2 other songs on here, Amsterdam and Molly. They're kind of hard to describe unless you hear them. And then you may not understand them either. Cover song on here that you should know is James Taylor's song Carolina in My Mind. John does a little faster than James does it. You can really hear his 12-string guitar on it though. And that is Take Me to Tomorrow. 6 months later, in September 1970, we get Whose Garden Was This? 10 main songs and 1 medley of 3 songs on here. 4 were written by John. Sail Away Home was written the day after the Kent State shootings that happened in May in Ohio, 5 months beforehand. I Wish I Could Have Been There. Woodstock was John's reaction to the Woodstock Festival, which he did not attend. The Game Is Over is a mournful kind of breakup song. We will get to his 4th song in a minute. The Tom Paxton song, Whose Garden Was This? Is, of course, the title song of the album and an environmental protest song. There are also songs on here called Tremble If You Must. Old Folks is another song. John's explanation for the choices on this album appears in his own handwriting on the back. When I first heard Tom's song, Whose Garden Was This? I started thinking about all the things that change as we grow older, things that we lose or forget, or that somehow pass us by. These songs are a reflection of those thoughts, having to do with today's memories and perhaps tomorrow's. You will know the cover songs on here. The Night They Drove All Dixie Down, written by Robbie Robertson, first released by the band in 1969. And then Mr. Bojangles, written by Jerry Jeff Walker in 1968, most notably recorded by the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band in 1970. John's version is mostly just his voice and his 12-string guitar on Mr. Bojangles, with a single lead guitar adding some flavor in between the lines. It's very nice. John approaches the Beatles' Eleanor Rigby in a sort of odd fashion. He focuses more on All the Lonely People than on Eleanor Rigby and Father Mackenzie, but maybe that's the way it was supposed to be anyway. Toward the end of the album, there's a medley of 3 songs together. It starts with the cover of Lennon and McCartney's Golden Slumbers, which segues into John's own song, Sweet, Sweet Life, and then goes back to reprise the first song on the album, Tremble If You Must. John said of Sweet, Sweet Life that he knew that this recording was pretty much a joyless album. Oh my. And so he tried to bring a more uplifting moment towards the end with Sweet Sweet Life. And the album actually ends with John singing one very slow and thoughtful chorus of Jingle Bells. Wow. Maybe going with the whole theme as he explains it here, that life goes on. I don't know. Whose garden was this? 1970. By the way, once John's popularity began to take off, everybody wanted this necklace that says, "War is not healthy for children and other living things." I give you Exhibit A. That's what fans do, guys. That's what fans do. Thank you, John, for everything. And those are the 6 albums that start us off in this series of John Denver's albums in original release chronological order. 3 Mitchell Trio albums, 3 solo albums. What do you remember about the music? What are your favorites? Please feel free to write your comments below. Have you listened to Violets of Dawn yet? That is your assignment, please. And if you want to keep up with this program, again, like, subscribe, ring the bell, leave a comment. I'd really like to hear what you remember most about these songs. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you next time. And there will be a next time, I promise you. Bye.